Sad Boy here. Been a little while since my last video, but I'm back here with a bit of a conspiracy. I have a cold right now, and so it's a little bit hard to talk, so I'm going to try to get through this kind of quickly. I saw the new Joker movie a couple of days ago, and there's something I want to talk about. For this video, I'm going to be using more of like a free flow kind of prompt style script, so it's going to be kind of just like me thinking out loud a little bit rather than me having like a very structured script that I'm reading off of. So it's not going to be the most like organized script, but I've been struggling with figuring out how I want to format the script and kind of what I wanted to focus on in the video, and I decided I'd rather just kind of get this out while it's fresh in my mind. Like most of you, I heard a lot of the criticism right away when this movie was coming out, and it kind of started like right when it launched, like before anyone had even really seen it. When they heard the concept and they knew Lady Gaga was going to be in it, it caught a lot of shit. And then when it launched in the film festival scene, it didn't really get very well received there either. A lot of the initial reviews were pretty negative, and I think that was really damaging because that kind of set like this early tone where people were now expecting it to be really bad. Fans got really upset that the movie was going to be within the genre of a musical, which I agree, I thought was a pretty stupid idea. I didn't like it. I really don't like musicals, and I just wasn't looking forward to that being, what the new Joker was going to be. But I don't know, it's like kind of an interesting idea if you do it right, so maybe it would be okay. So there was a lot of weird discourse going on where even like one of the cinematographers came out and was started going, well, it's not really a musical, it's not actually a musical. And then that ended up not being true. There's like, I don't know, 9 or 12 songs in the movie. It's definitely a musical. The majority of the movie is definitely song based. That's how most things are communicated. That's how a lot of it is kind of moved along. It's through songs. And then, the movie actually came out the other day, and just immediately Reddit, YouTube just blew up with reviews of people absolutely bashing it, giving it a lot of shit, saying it's, the worst movie they've ever seen. I actually saw someone say that it's worse than Borderlands, which is insane. Borderlands is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's a very broken product. It's not even like really a movie. It's this thing that got destroyed through a bunch of disruptions throughout their production process. The new Joker movie is like a cohesive movie. So there's no way to like that's just an obnoxious stance to take, to say that Borderlands is better than that. It's just not. You're just trying to say the most extreme take possible. And so, I was hearing all these criticisms, and from a lot of YouTubers who, like, I normally agree with their opinions on different types of things, cultural things, social things, art, different things like that. One thing I started noticing that was kind of weird, though, was the criticisms were really unified. Everyone was kind of saying the same thing. It just felt like everyone was trying to get a more and more extreme version. Like, it's just, videos would be titled like, I watched the new Joker so you don't have to, or like the new Joker is awful, and awful is in all caps. And so, it was really like this thing where like I was like, wow, I guess I'm gonna see this movie and just hate watch it, just out of curiosity. Just want to see how bad it could actually really be. The descriptions were just so bad. The reviews were just awful, and like everyone was unified that this is like just a garbage movie, like that everything in it was bad, that there was no redeeming quality to it. And so I was really expecting to see like one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And so I went with a couple of people and we were watching it. And about 15 minutes into it, I turned to the person sitting next to me and I say, this really isn't that bad. I'm kind of enjoying this. Like, I was kind of confused. Like, for the first 30 minutes of the movie, I was kind of confused because I was, like, waiting for the bad part to start. And it just kind of didn't happen. It just kept going, and I was like, yeah, this is, like, pretty good. I'm, like, enjoying it. And I was surprised how much I was enjoying it because I hate musicals. So I was definitely very surprised at how much I was liking it. And so, yeah, like, it kept going. And then by the time the movie ended, I was actually just kind of annoyed because I just kept thinking about all of these reviews and criticisms that I was hearing. All these critiques, all these YouTubers and people on Reddit and these journalists. I mean, these are actual professional critics, and they're all saying exactly the same thing. And it was like, I didn't understand how my interpretation could be so disconnected from theirs. Like, how is my experience so different? Like, I saw it and thought it was a pretty good movie. Um, close, close to being great. Like, it was a very good movie. It was well made. It was interesting. It was a really unique like concept and execution. They took some chances, which I like. It was different than anything I've ever seen. And so, as the people that I went with, and like, one person thought it was like okay, leaning towards not liking it that much. The other was pretty much like in the middle, like, yeah, it was good. And then I thought it was like a little bit great, close to being a great movie. And so, like, after going back and like looking at all the YouTube videos and like rewatching them after seeing the movie, and going to Reddit and reading through all the different threads that exist, and then, looking at, different journalist articles again, like, just kind of rereading the same ones that I had like looked at the other day, plus some like new ones. And I'm at the point where I have a bit of a conspiracy, and I legitimately think it's true. I don't think that the majority of critiques that you've seen online for this movie are honest in a number of different ways. I think there are people that went to see it and they were really kind of primed by like the bad reviews that they had seen maybe earlier from the film festival, and then just kind of general fan response online, and they kind of went into it wanting to hate it, and wanting to kind of tear it down, wanting to destroy it, wanting it to be bad, and they just didn't give it a shot. Because, I mean, for me, the opening scene was unique and interesting and instantly engaged me. They open with this whole kind of like Warner Brothers style old animation cartoon of the Joker. And it kind of shows this concept of like how, the Joker might not actually, be a person. The Joker is like a concept. It's like an idea, almost like a spirit kind of that possessed Arthur. And that's like a running theme throughout the movie, and it ties in kind of towards the end, and also like the revelation that happens during the court scene. And I think that it was, I mean, yeah, like right off the bat, I was like, what are people talking about? I was like, this is like a really unique way to get someone. So I think that people went in kind of with like blockers up. Like, I think people weren't really willing to give this movie any kind of a shot right away. Like, it just seemed, I don't know, watching it, I'm like, how do you, like, just despise this movie? It's one thing if you don't like it, but to be like, it's awful, it's trash, it's the worst thing ever, it's the worst comic book movie, which it's not. It's not the worst comic book movie. I kind of have trouble even calling either of the Joker movies a comic book movie. I don't know. It just doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like what they were going for. I saw someone saying that Madame Web might be better. I mean, that's just like with saying that like Borderlands movie might be better or something like that. You're just not being honest. That's not an honest thing to say. Madame Web is really bad. Borderlands is unwatchable. This movie was pretty good. It was well made. It was, it was a little artsy, so maybe people aren't responding to that too well. Like, it definitely tried to be like a little bit of like a kind of like a fancy movie a little bit. It was definitely more of an artsy vibe. It was definitely trying to be, not just like a Marvel cinematic product. It was trying to be an actual movie that made an interesting point. But yeah, I mean, like, comparing it to something like Borderlands or Madame Web, which like are, I mean, just both really low quality. They're products. That's really what they are. They were just an attempt to create a product. Comparing it to this, where it's like there's like, I would say actual artistic integrity. They're trying to actually make something good, something unique, something you haven't seen before. So yeah, so there's that factor where like I think people kind of went with like blinders, and I think that kind of has to do with like some of the reviews that you've seen, where they just like weren't going to give it a shot. But what I kind of found like a little, I mean, almost like concerning, is that it seems like a lot of people didn't actually see the movie and just made reviews based on other reviews that they've seen, to the point where it's almost like a bunch of people used ChatGPT and it just pulled up critics' reviews and just generated the script for them. Because it was just weird. Like, it's weird to see so many people get something wrong. And I'm not saying you're wrong if you don't like the movie, but I'm saying there are things in these reviews that are factually incorrect. And I'm not going to like name anyone specifically, but there's some pretty major people online who said things that you could honestly just call it a lie. Like, it's a lie or like misinformation kind of. So I think that a lot of these people who are doing these reviews didn't actually see it, and instead just copied because they wanted to get stuff out quickly, or they were just too lazy, or like, I even understand to a degree thinking to yourself, like, maybe I can get away with not actually seeing this, just doing a review. Like, no one's gonna really call me out on it. If I'm saying the same thing everyone else is saying, it kind of blends into it. And for content creators who do this kind of thing professionally, there's a lot more pressure to do something like that, right? Like, it's like your livelihood depends on knocking something out really quickly, being one of the first. That's like one of the most important parts. You have to get your stuff up quickly, because then, you know, you're going to get the initial views where people are deciding like, oh, should I see this opening night or not? So I think that content creators kind of fall into this trap where they get rewarded for two things. The speed that they get something up online, and then how extreme their opinion is. So they've done studies that have shown that engagement in algorithms specifically reward very extreme opinions and takes on things online. So if you kind of like hit like in the middle of the road on something where you're like, yeah, I don't know, that movie was okay, like, the algorithm's not going to push that forward because you're not coming out saying it was great or it was awful. And people just don't really care to watch a review where your end is just like, yeah, it's fine. You know, it's like they want to see you be like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen, or this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. They abandoned it and they destroyed it and blah, blah, blah. You know, they want to see those very extreme takes. The algorithm just kind of pushes more extreme takes, and content creators know how to manipulate the algorithm. That's why I feel like the titles are all the same. You know, it's, I watched The Joker 2, so you don't have to. The Joker 2 is awful, all caps. The Joker 2 is the worst movie, all caps. Wow, worst movie of the year, all caps. Biggest fail, all caps. I saw one before where the title of the video was Warner Brothers executive admits that Joker is an epic failure. And like, the quote from the executive is just like, yeah, we kind of just didn't hit the mark with fans like we expected this to. We thought they would respond to this the way they responded to the first Joker, but we kind of just missed the mark. It was the most like, yeah, I don't know, we kind of thought it was better than people are saying. We're kind of surprised by the response. And then, you know, the title of the video, though, is like, Warner Brothers executive admits this epic failure. He admits that this is just the biggest loss of the year. And it's like, that's not what the guy said. Like, it's, but you have to title it that way. You have to do that kind of clickbait thing to make a living doing this. You can't just be like in the middle and be like, oh, I don't know, like, it was fine, you know, like, I mean, or be like me where I'm like, it was good leaning towards great, like, not amazing. I'm not dying to see it again, but I would watch it again. So I think a lot of creators just didn't actually see the movie. They just copied each other. But anyway, I'm not going to say like who it is because like I don't know for a fact that he did this or anything like that, but his video was up, I believe, a day before opening day, which was like a little strange, but he's a major figure online, so I'm like, oh, okay, like, you know, they gave him like early access or something. But then he mentioned that he was like in the theater with his friends, and I'm like, oh, okay, so early release, who knows, you know, maybe they did something like that. It's, you know, it's not unheard of for a person to see a movie a day before it's out or something like that. I'm sure he has, you know, contacts and shit, so it's like, okay, he got to see it a day before. But I listened to his review, and then, you know, I saw it the day, what would that have been? So I saw it the day that I saw the movie. I saw it the morning of, day after he posted it, and I was like, wow, this movie is going to be really bad. This sounds like the worst movie ever. But so many things that he said in his review were just wrong. And it's the kind of thing where it makes me go, oh, I really don't think he saw the movie now. So to give you an example, some of the things that he said is that Arthur just plays this very like depressed, low person the entire time, the entire movie. Not true. He does have a range of emotion in it. It's mostly bad. Yeah, he's locked up for murder, so he's not like cheery most of the time. But he does show like a range of emotion. He shows happiness, sadness, anger. He does show like multiple emotions, and he goes hard in certain scenes. He says that the Joker never really shows up, that Joaquin Phoenix is essentially just playing Arthur the whole time and never really plays the character of the Joker, which is, again, just not true. That's just not correct. Joaquin Phoenix absolutely goes into character as the Joker, does the makeup, does the little dance, does, the violent disassociations where he's like kind of like in his fantasies and everything like that. So it's like, that's not true. Then they were like, well, this movie really serves just to like introduce Harley Quinn. Not true. Yeah, she's in it, but like it's definitely, Arthur's story. It's definitely about Arthur. That's absolutely what it is about. So another thing that he said was eventually in the movie, they kind of shift and it's just all about Harley Quinn. And it's just all about Lady Gaga and Harley Quinn, and she's the star, and he's kind of a background character, and it just focuses on her. That's not true. Like, that's not true at all. That's, like, Joaquin Phoenix is on screen for, like, 97% of the movie. Like, he's always on screen, constantly. Very, very, very few scenes have him like out of frame even, or not in focus. I mean, he's constantly there. He's absolutely the focus of the movie. And then like some criticisms of the songs are like a little bit true. Like, again, as a person who hates musicals, I don't give a shit about the songs in a musical. They're normally a distraction from the movie. I normally just don't watch musicals to begin with. I was surprised though, because I actually really enjoyed a lot of the songs in this. And I also didn't enjoy plenty of them. A lot of them felt like filler. A lot of them didn't really progress the story that much, or were like kind of somewhat related to what was going on. But like, I don't know, like they, if you took them out, it didn't change anything. But a couple of the songs were really good. Joaquin Phoenix has one in the courtroom that I thought was like the coolest thing I've ever seen in a musical. Which, isn't like a hard bar to clear. Musicals are not exactly cool, but it was, a really interesting song. It fit the tone perfect. It was like, the placement was flawless. It was just exactly there. And the other thing you kind of have to get with like the musical aspect of this is it has to do with Arthur's kind of psychotic episodes and his attempt at communication. And I mean, just honestly, the truth is a lot of them just also probably aren't real. It's him imagining this relationship with Harley Quinn, and the one connecting thing that he knows about her is that she likes music. So it's like he kind of imagines a lot of this. People talk about like when he's like singing into her voicemail. He's obviously not actually singing into the voicemail. It's, there's a lot of like symbolism at play in this movie, and it was kind of subtle at points, but I didn't think very subtle to the point where like everyone would miss it. And I don't think everyone missed it. I just think most people didn't see the movie and then made reviews and criticisms of it anyway. Even on Reddit, I'm seeing weird things where on a lot of like the Joker and the Batman and the DC comic threads, the same people are doing just copying, pasting the same comments over and over in every single thread. And I'm just so confused by like this on Reddit especially, like you're not making a living on Reddit. So it's like, why are you like trying to like farm attention and, push so hard into this narrative when you didn't like see it? It just feels like a weird thing to do. And for like critics who are doing this, where you're going out and making some pretty hard stances, like you're saying things like, I watched it so you don't have to. You're telling people to like not go and engage with it. Like, it'd be one thing if you were like, hey, it's awful, but go see if you like it. Like, then okay, fine. But you're intentionally, maybe somewhat unintentionally, like financially damaging it. When you're a major YouTuber, an actual working film critic who like works for like real publications, and you're coming out and just like bashing a movie, like there's real financial implications for the people that are involved in that. Like, just even people that were involved in it, like, forget about like the major stars who are all rich and everything like that. There's people involved in the process, I mean, that don't make a lot of money, and the success of their movies kind of helps determine, you know, if they get another project, if they get brought into something. So you're coming out and like making up this criticism in this review and potentially actually like really damaging people's careers over something that I just don't believe you saw. I get that, like, if your criticism of the movie is that you didn't like something, that's not what I'm talking about. It's the listing off things that are untrue. That's what really bothered me. And like going back and looking at it, and I mean, it's just people, saying it's an unclear message, or it doesn't take off, or it's like independent. I mean, the same YouTuber who I was talking about before was saying how this one isn't isn't a sequel to the first movie. It's like not a follow-up. It literally takes place immediately after, and it's all about Arthur dealing with the consequences of his actions from the first movie. I don't know how you're going to say that's not an actual sequel. I don't know how you're going to say that he's only being one way. I don't understand how you're going to say, that he's never the Joker when he definitely is. I don't understand how you're going to say that he's just kind of monotone, like that he's just only sad and quiet the whole time. He's not. He does major song and dance numbers. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it, but it's just weird to see people saying these same things over and over that are just factually not true. Like, they're just incorrect. It's like it kind of just bothered me to the point where that's really all I wanted to talk about with this movie. The movie is fine. Acting great. Joaquin Phoenix is really good. Lady Gaga's fine. She didn't do a bad job at any point. In terms of like the music, some of the songs are really good. A couple. And then a bunch of the other songs are like very forgettable. And then one or two are like pretty bad. And for the most part, the singing, not amazing. I do think they underutilized Lady Gaga. I think that's a fair criticism of it because she can sing. So a lot of her songs, she was kind of doing that like wispy, flat breath kind of thing. Just not a big fan of that. So it's like, yeah, her singing wasn't amazing. Her acting was fine. His acting was amazing. His singing was at parts okay. He actually, in his big musical number, he definitely went for it, and it was pretty good. One performance I really hated was from the person playing Harvey Dent, who is the prosecutor. He plays the guy's kind of like a young Harvey Dent, because I don't know. It's this Batman universe kind of has a weird timeline of people's ages and where they are. If you think about like how old Bruce is, how old Harvey is, how old Arthur is, it's a little bit weird, a little inconsistent with that, but he's playing this very young prosecutor, he's doing a good job and all that. He's roasting him. I mean, it's an easy case. The guy murdered someone on national TV. It's obviously he's guilty. But what was really weird about the performance is he was kind of just doing Kevin Spacey from that movie, A Time to Kill. Like, he kind of just had this weird, smug, almost like vaguely Southern attitude. It was just weird. It was like, if you've seen A Time to Kill, Kevin Spacey's character is not very well thought out or executed, and he's kind of just always like, oh, I thought they taught you that in law school. And it was just kind of like that same, like, smug prosecutor behavior, and like, I didn't like it. I don't know. It didn't like match the character that I know of as Harvey Dent. Like, it just didn't feel right. I didn't think the actor did a very good job. So I mean, so the performances aren't all flawless. It's fine. The setting is like pretty cool. I thought they made good use of, like a penitentiary, mental hospital, prison kind of environment. Like they did an interesting blend. It's the way they came up with like Harley getting access to Arthur was interesting. But some of the stuff that I thought was really interesting with it, that they did kind of a fun take, was they did this whole power dynamic switch. So if you're familiar, I mean, it's like, the Joker really manipulates Harley Quinn traditionally. She's obsessed with him. He sees her as useful. And, I mean, what's more useful than a person that will die for you? It's like, if you're trying to do a lot of stuff, that's a person you want on your team. And so they kind of flip that. So, like, Lady Gaga's character, Lee, I think is what they call her throughout most of the movie, you find out that she actually, like, she lied to get in, to meet him. She made up all these stories to relate to him. She kind of created this whole narrative. And he was very susceptible to it because of his, tendencies of stalking and romanticizing things. And that kind of plays into, like, why there's music too. Like, I mean, that's kind of part of it. It's, his one thing he really knows about her, that he thinks he knows about her, is, like, she likes music. That's, like, their, like, initiating kind of, instigating moment of their relationship. And so, yeah, he turns into a musical in his head because he's romanticizing this whole thing between him and this manipulator. And it's very interesting. And she doesn't love him. She loves the Joker, the concept, this, this persona, this, ideology, essentially. Like, she's really in love with that, the symbol. I thought that was just, like, a really kind of interesting turn to put on it. And it made sense for the character of Arthur because he's just so weak, and they really drive home, like, how pathetic he is in this movie. They talk about him having a low IQ and not being very smart and not being popular and being a social outcast and just, like, a loser in every sense of the word. And just they at points, I mean, at one point I actually was laughing during the court because, I mean, it was just like his own lawyer was just, like, roasting him. There was nothing in this movie that was just, like, overtly bad or good. I mean, some stuff, like, I just think was, like, better than other things, and the parts that weren't good, I don't know. It's like maybe because I'm just not a musical person, it just really doesn't bother me that the songs weren't all great or original or anything like that, or, like, performed particularly well. But I prefer that because, I mean, it's like, I think it would have been weird to, like, do these, like, huge musical numbers where, like, the walls drift away and everyone does a big dance routine. It's like, it wouldn't feel like you're, like, confined in this prison. It's this really dark setting. It's a really, in my opinion, unique one. And it's really one of the darkest musicals I can think of, because even when I think of, different musicals that are supposed to kind of have darker tones about, like, murder or whatever, Sweeney Todd, for example, they're still very, like, campy. There's still a lot of pageantry, kind of a flamboyant energy, honestly, is maybe, like, what you would call it. Like, this just doesn't have that. It's very gritty for a musical. I kind of wish that the cinematographer didn't come out and go, like, it's actually not a musical. It's like, no, come out and be like, yeah, it's a musical that's like one you've never seen before. He could have helped the narrative that way by being a little bit more, like, defensive of the work, instead of trying to, like, lie and manipulate people and be like, it's actually not a musical. It's like, dude, there's, like, 12 songs. It's a musical. It's definitely a musical. That's more songs than I think possible to say something isn't a musical. Really any songs. If your characters are suddenly breaking into song, it's a musical. So, I mean, like, I don't think he helped by doing that. That wasn't exactly a good move. Yeah, I don't know. I just, it really bothers me that people just kind of lied about the movie. Like, it's like, I can't see it as anything other than a lie, like, and, like, I get it. Like, content creators, like I was saying before, it's a tough way to make a living. It's, your entire income is dictated by things that you don't really have control over, but things that you can manipulate. So the biggest one is going to be the algorithm, right? So for all of them, it makes sense to get the video up first, to be as early as you possibly can get that video up, because as it gets more and more views, the algorithm will lift it up to the top. So if you're the first one with a Joker review, you're going to get pushed towards the top when people look for reviews for Joker. Like, this video right now, like, no one's going to see this. I'm sure no one's going to watch this. It's my first video in, like, a year. I have no subscribers. No one's going to see this. But, for really major people, the difference of getting this out, in the case of that one very suspect one, the day before opening night, releasing it, Monday, Tuesday, like what I'm doing, it's a difference of, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of views, which translates to real money for those people. That's real engagement for your channel, which helps your other videos, which just leads to more money. So there's literally a financial benefit to being dishonest. If you're one of these people, and I'm guaranteeing you that there are reviews on YouTube right now where people made the review without actually seeing it. I've seen at least 12 where I'm like, I just don't think this person actually saw it, or not to sound smug, but like they didn't understand it. Like it's like, and it's not a hard movie to understand. This isn't some like crazy complicated thing. Yeah, there's use of like symbolism. There is a message. They try to kind of, go back and like fix the message from the first one a little bit. Like that's the point. It's they didn't hate it. It's that you identified with the villain and they didn't want you to, so they're trying to like undo that. That's kind of a part of it. But like, it makes sense that somebody would want to like manipulate the algorithm by getting something out quick. So they're like, screw it. There's all these reviews saying it's bad. All these professional critics at these film festivals are saying it's bad. It must be bad. So they just do that. But then it snowballs and it starts going on and on. And then, but, and then even the problem with that too, then it's like, then you have like the engagement factor, right? Like, so people right now are like dogpiling online. So if somebody comes out and they go, this movie's awful, everyone agrees with them. The majority of comments will be agreeing with them. And there's this weird kind of like response happening right now. It's another reason why I wanted to wait a few days, because I wanted to see if more my narrative started to kind of appear anywhere. And I'm seeing it now. Especially on Reddit, you're seeing a lot of people come out and they're like, I don't understand what you're all talking about. This was a great movie. You're starting to see the people become vocal who are like, well, wait. I went and saw it and I thought it was fantastic. Like one person online was saying it's their favorite movie of the year that they've seen. And I get it. I can see someone feeling that way. I don't feel that way, but it's definitely... like I would say probably, it's borderline great. Like, so it's like you see people starting to say that now, and like the response is just like a negative dog pile. Everyone jumps down their throat. And now even like some of the YouTubers who have like done these critiques, and like you're seeing it like also with like memes and stuff like that. And the same person before us, some people are like copying and pasting the same thing on like every post. You're now seeing it where people that are coming out and saying that they like it and that they think people that hated it just didn't get it are smug and like pseudo intellectual, and they think they're better than you and they understand something that you didn't understand. They're coming out with this very like mocking tone. And I'm trying to like express that like me saying that I liked it doesn't mean that you not liking it is wrong. Me saying that I think that you lied about seeing the movie and just made a review without seeing it, yeah, I think that's wrong. I think you're wrong for doing that, and there are certain people where I'm 100% convinced that's what they did. I don't think they saw the movie. And then I think other people just kept repeating what these YouTubers who got like the first ones out, I think they just started kind of copying and repeating. The titles of their videos are all the same and everything like that. Descriptions are all the same. I think that's wrong. If I say that somebody who didn't like it, I think that they didn't like it because they didn't get it, it's not like I think this was some amazing intellectual thing and I'm superior. I think you just went in expecting the first movie, or went in expecting a comic book movie, and you didn't get that. And like, that's what you didn't get. You didn't understand that that's never what they intended to deliver to you. They were making a point. They were making a good message about accountability, about, the dangers of ideology, of symbols and symbolism, getting into like, Batman being like, it's important for people to have like the symbol of Batman and not the man, it's like, let him die with his mask on and all that crap. Well, that can kind of go the other way. And this movie gets into that, how like, the Joker as a symbol is dangerous, and it becomes this thing that like not even Arthur can stop. Even when he's like, there is no Joker, everyone's like, no, there's a Joker. And at the end of the movie, someone kind of just takes it from him, essentially. Harley Quinn says like, I loved the Joker, not you. And then, just to give it away too, it's like essentially there's a whole thing with like Arthur's death and someone else becoming the Joker at the end of the movie. That's kind of like the big reveal at the end of it. It was like the most comic book feeling thing in it. But it was like an interesting concept. It was like this unique idea, and it was a fun thing to do with it too. And like what I liked about it, and like what kind of gives me hope because I remember hearing about how apparently there's going to be a sequel to Fight Club, and I think that's just such an awful idea. I really don't think they should do it. I think it's less necessary than this sequel. The issue that I have is people that are upset with this movie and how they handled Arthur, the Joker, the concept, the message, how they say there's a lack of a message. There's not. It's a really good message. You just don't like it. Is, it's accountability. Arthur at the end says, there is no Joker. It was just me. I killed those people. I was wrong for doing that. I deserve punishment. It's kind of this thing where he's just like, this whole movement that he has started throughout the city with these people, everyone's latching onto this thing, and he's realizing that, like, yeah, I'm wrong. I was wrong to do it. I'm mentally ill, very obviously. And there's this very pivotal scene in the courtroom where they have the little person from the movie, Gary. So he comes in, and Arthur's in character as the Joker, and he's really just kind of roasting him while he's on the stand. And Gary's sad, and it's a really tragic scene. It was really sad. It was very emotionally charged, and it was really confronting Arthur with the consequences of what he did. And like he even says, he's like, Gary, I said I wouldn't hurt you, and I mean it. I would never hurt you. I would never want anyone to hurt you. And he explains, Arthur, you did hurt me. When I saw you commit that murder, I can't sleep. I can't work. I can't do anything. I'm terrified all the time. I'm always scared someone's going to hurt me. It was the most gruesome thing ever. He essentially has like PTSD from this event. And, Arthur's being like very dismissive and kind of, in character as the Joker. Cruel, dismissive, mean, kind of bullying him a little bit. And Gary gets through to him. He kind of goes like, why are you doing this? Like, this isn't who you are. And I like to, he keeps calling him Arthur. He refuses to say Joker. He keeps saying, Arthur, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And he points out, he goes, at work, you were the only person that was nice to me. You were the only one that wasn't mean to me, that didn't make fun of me, call me names. All the different things that all these awful people did at the clown agency, whatever you would call that. He's like, you weren't a part of that. You were the only one that was nice. Why is this what you became? Why are you acting like this now? It's like, this isn't who you are. And it kind of just, it gets through to Arthur because he realizes that he always valued himself as being better, kinder, nicer than the other people, just not understanding why everyone was being so awful. And he sees that he became poisoned by, the society. Like, he became poisoned by it, and he became that awful thing. And that this Joker ideology is actually just as disgusting as the very things that he rampaged against. He's actually just part of it. He's no different. He's no better. He's not some martyr. He's not someone who's above it. He's not this violent prophet. He's just the same. A violent criminal who did violent criminal stuff, and it was gross, and it was scary, and he hurt people, and he hurt people he cared about. I mean, he killed his mom at one point. I mean, they get into like how, you should recognize that these aren't good things. You shouldn't look up to it. And like what it really kind of felt like was that meme where it shows Patrick Bateman, Tyler from Fight Club, Rick from Rick and Morty, and Joker. I think the fourth character is actually the Joker from the first movie. And it's just like, if you identified with these characters, you missed the point. You're not supposed to identify with them. You're not supposed to think they're good. You're not supposed to think they're right. You're supposed to see how outside factors can create justification in a person's mind and how they think like, I'm right to be so awful because everything else is so awful. So I'm just as awful as everything else. It's normal, which means it's okay. And it's not. And this movie did a really, really good job of addressing that concept of like, don't think that you're better than everyone else or that you're in some way right for what you're doing because everyone else is so bad and so awful. You're still responsible for being bad. You're still responsible for being awful. If you hurt someone, you deserve some kind of comeuppance. You should deserve some kind of punishment for that. You don't get to just damage people and say, well, I was damaged by others, so it's fine. You're still responsible. And, it's like the fact that they handled the movie this way and they kind of took the message in like that direction really unexpectedly made me feel better about the fact that they apparently are making a sequel to Fight Club, because I'm just hoping that they do kind of the same thing. Like, I'm hoping that it's the characters have had time to sit there and reflect on it and develop a little bit, and that they kind of not exactly correct the message, but just make it easier for people to understand, because so many people didn't understand. At the end of the movie, Arthur has this whole thing in the courthouse where, he realizes the Joker's not real. I'm the Joker. The Joker's just a thing I made up. I'm responsible for what I did. I'm an angry, bitter person. Blah, blah, blah. He gives a whole speech. And all of his, fans in the crowd get up and walk out of the courthouse. And Harley gets all upset, and she gets up and walks out. And I feel like that really captured kind of what happened with, the fan base that did see the movie and still hated it. They wanted, the psychopathic rant. They wanted the rambling against society and the justification for being, a violent person because you're lonely and you're sad and, in Arthur's case, very dumb. They point out how he has a low IQ a couple of times. They try to address exactly what the fans got wrong the first time. He's not the hero, and it's amazing you have to explain that the psychopath that is the Joker, one of the most psychopathic villains in the history of any media, is not the hero. You have to actually go back and explain that to fans. He's not the good guy. You shouldn't be just like him. You shouldn't want to be just like him. You shouldn't watch the first Joker movie and go, wow, that's just like me. That's not good. You need help if that's true. What you need to do is take accountability, and that's kind of more what it's about. And that's not a fun message. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of rebelled against it, right? Because it's for years everyone loved this guy just rebelling against society and killing bullies and blah blah blah, and it's yeah, that's just never good. Lots of people can justify bad things. They shouldn't do it. It's still a bad thing. And so I think the movie really kind of addressed what was most toxic about the fan base, and they just didn't like that criticism. I didn't think that the fan base liked that they were kind of being called out for idolizing a really bad person. The majority of fans of the Joker, liked to see themselves kind of as the Joker, and you shouldn't want that, and you shouldn't be that. That's not who you're supposed to try to look up to and try to be. And I just don't think the fans liked it. No one likes to have their mistakes put right in their face, and I do think that this movie in a way corrected it. The same big YouTuber who I talked about was kind of going on about how he felt that the director hated the first one and was trying to undo it. And it's not that he was trying to undo it. He was completing the message. He was correcting the interpretation because he left it really vague in the beginning in an entertaining way. And then people ran with it and were like, oh yeah, cool. Joker, Arthur, that's the hero of this story. No, it's a villain origin story. So he's not undoing it. He's not uncreating it this one person really was just stressing. No, he's fixing it. He's fixing your interpretation of it. He's completing the story of, wow, a person thought they were justified to be horrible. They became a monster, and they became kind of a symbol for a lot of people, and a lot of people really latched onto this concept both in and out of the movie. So the character has a whole kind of not coming to God moment, but full circle moral revelation kind of thing. And yeah, I do think people just missed that. And I don't think it's this smug thing to come out and be yeah, you hate the movie because you just didn't get the point. You were expecting another Joker. That's not it. How satisfying would this movie have been if the whole time he was in character as the Joker, and then he shot his way out of the courthouse, and then he goes somewhere to wait for Bruce Wayne to grow up and be the Batman, because don't forget he's probably 12 at this point in this universe, because he was a little kid in the first one. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. It wouldn't be entertaining. This is way more entertaining. It's watching a mentally ill, violent fucking dissociated psycho recognize that actually, yeah, you know what, I deserve punishment. I was not correct for doing that. And I think that if you're looking at this and being like, oh my god, like, what's his name, Todd Phillips, hated the first movie. That's why I see some people saying like, oh, Todd Phillips must have just hated his first movie. Yeah, I'm sure he hated his first successful, you know, I'm sure he hated his extremely successful movie that was like critically acclaimed and a box office hit and made him rich and famous. I'm sure he hated it, right? No, it's just that you don't understand like what he's doing with it. You miss the point. And other people getting it and just saying like, hey, you know, I think you guys didn't understand it. Like, it's actually like a really interesting point to make, and he executed it in a really creative way, and it was good start to finish. That's not like people being smug. That's not like a better than you attitude. It's just people being like, I understood it, you know, maybe give it another try. Like, I haven't seen anything from a person that liked this movie that was as extreme in its delivery and narrative as all of the people that hate the movie. And I mean, even like I've seen arguments online where people are arguing with people that liked the movie, and then in their back and forths reveal, as they're saying how it's a bad movie, that they haven't seen it yet and they might not see it. And it's like, how are you arguing against someone saying that they like it, calling them smug, and then you haven't even seen it? Like, you haven't even like gone to the theater and watched it the way some of us did, and some of us are like, oh, actually it's good, and you're just like so convinced by these like early reviews that it must be terrible. It's just weird. It's a weird thing, you know. It's like, I don't know, I really hate it. I hate like what the implication is for art and for like the commerce of art, you know, because like now it's like the studio put serious money into a really unique, artistic, like experimental movie. Like, this is not some cookie cutter Marvel bullshit. This was like an attempt at making a really unique, really, really creative comic book movie, if you want to call it that. And like now people are just bashing it, and you know, production companies are just not going to greenlight anything like this for a long time. They're going to just want to keep doing more of the same. Let's get, you know, 19 more Spider-Verse movies. Let's get more, you know, Marvel movies. How many crossovers can we do? More Guardians of the Galaxy. And instead, it's like, you had this really good movie here for adults, right? It was right here for us. Like, you had the chance to go in there and be like, okay, yeah, it's like not what I expected it to be, but it's interesting for what it is. And instead, everyone goes online and attacks everyone and says it's bullshit. And then I hate that like the discourse around art is being driven by algorithm manipulation. Like, the fact that the narrative around art is driven by, like, first off, it's, you know, do advertisers like my channel? So I have to have a lot of views. People have to be engaged. I have to get likes. I have to get clicks. I have to get comments. You know, if I made this video and I just titled this, The Joker is the worst movie I've ever seen, and I just listed off like 5 reasons why it's really bad, it would do better than this one's going to do. And that's not right. Like, that's not, because it's not honest. It's not a real opinion of mine, but it would be more successful. And then that's what happens. You get these opinions, these like fake opinions that like are just not correct, but they're successful, so people do it. I mean, I do this as such a hobby. I haven't done a video in like a year or something like that. I'm like trying to get back into it just for fun. I like to do this for fun. And I, a person whose, you know, income, my life doesn't depend on this in any way. I don't make any money from doing this at all. You know, I don't make any money from doing YouTube. I noticed trends from the couple of videos that I've made of what did better and why did it do better and how quickly did it do better, and, you know, did the algorithm seem to maybe run with it just a little bit? Like, you know, it's like you notice what works and what doesn't very quickly. And, you know, if your life depends on it, especially, I mean, God, if you have dependents and stuff like that, you're so incentivized to lie and to be dishonest and, you know, to take these very extreme stances on a movie that's just fine. You know, it's a movie that's fine, and you're coming out and calling it the worst thing you've ever seen. And then if you go to these people's channels and look at their list of their movie reviews, everything everything is always the worst. The worst. It's awful. It's awful. It's just so bad. It's terrible. It's the worst movie ever. Worst movie of the year. Biggest box office flop. Well, this didn't go well. This is a major failure. Epic failure. Warner Brothers executive says epic failure. He did not say epic failure. It's like you just get into this like weird, you just get into this like really just upsetting chain where it's like every single video is the same thing, and then we keep rewarding it, right? Like we click on the videos and we see these things and it's just like, oh my god, you watched the Borderlands movie so I don't have to? Thanks. And it's like, okay, that one's valid because that movie's garbage. But then like, oh, you watched, you know, the new Joker movie so I don't have to? Thanks. And then you make it sound so awful that I have zero interest in ever seeing it. But if more people just saw it, I think they would think it's fine. It's realistically a fine movie. It's just the loudest voices are controlling the narrative, and then the second loudest voices are just repeating back what the loudest ones said in the first place. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's like upsetting. It just shows you that like even critics that you like, I mean, these are some people whose content I enjoy, you really can't trust them. Like, you know, it's like if they're so driven by, you know, advertisements to make a living and, you know, promoting and getting lots of clicks and stuff like that, I mean, you really have to think about it. But like the integrity of their content is really not their first priority. They don't care. Because I think an honest review would be the majority of people would say the movie's fine. It's fine. It's completely okay. Is it the greatest movie? No. I think it's one of the best musicals I've ever seen. I hate musicals, and it was very different than any musical. I'm not a comic book person. I do like the like lore of Batman. I think, you know, the writing of the characters is really interesting. I think it's a fun world for creators to play with. I tend to like, you know, video games and shows and movies based on it. I just don't read comics, but I don't know. And like I see people saying like, who's this movie for? I don't know, me. Like I thought it was good. I like artsy stuff. I like dark, gritty stuff. I like Batman characters. I think they can be kind of fun to play with, and like it's a good world to play within. And like, yeah, as a person who doesn't like musicals but likes dark, gritty things and likes artsy things, like, yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. I would watch it again. I would gladly watch it again, like soon, without an issue. I'm not gonna go see it in theaters, but like, it's, yeah, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing, and it just feels so like dystopian that our, you know, our dialogue around art, you know, the conversation around this major art piece, which is what it is, you know, it's a lot of effort went into this by a lot of talented people, and like our whole conversation around it is being dictated by algorithm manipulation. You know, it's like we're just trying to like make the computer happy so I make a living. Like that's what it is. That's what the conversations boil down to. I mean, God, it's like I hate it's, you know, it's not just YouTube too. It's like algorithm manipulation goes online. I mean, it happens with the articles that get recommended to you, and that's why, I mean, I saw these same exact incorrect criticisms and also just critiques I didn't agree with strongly in major publications. Like major publications. Like, I mean, it's like these people are working the top position that a critic can have, right? It's like, you know, you're writing for like the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Atlantic, like, you know, LA Times, like all these different big ones. You know, you're a film critic like out in France watching this, and like, you know, you're writing the reviews, you're the first people to get to see it, and just everyone was in such a rush to dogpile on this movie, and it was just not deserving of that kind of hatred. You know, I mean, to like run back through it, it's like, yeah, the set looked cool, looked good, every shot was clean, acting was good. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix did an incredible job the entire time. His singing was pretty good. Lady Gaga was pretty good, both with acting and singing. They could have definitely done a lot more with her if they wanted to. The story was interesting. The message was interesting. The approach to using music and song for these mental episodes was really interesting. There's so much stuff too where it's like you don't know if it's actually going on or if it's in Arthur's head, because he's not a reliable narrator. You can't trust him. You can't trust his perception, and you know the movie is ultimately kind of through his perception. So it's like there's a lot of uncertainty with like relationships that are going on, and then like the overall message that it sends is a positive one. And I think that's what people hated, because it was kind of like, they kind of put, your mistake right in your face. Like, if you idolize the Joker and you were so excited to see more of the Joker, they make you feel kind of stupid for wanting that. They make you feel kind of like a bad person for wanting that. You were wrong to want that. It really made me think of that movie Funny Games, where, the two killers have his family trapped and they're torturing them. And one of the killers turns, he kind of gets a little meta. He looks at the screen and he says to you, he's like, because you're rooting for them to escape. You do want them to escape, don't you? It's like, it kind of calls you out a little bit on like wanting to see their death. Like, you want to see how they die. And this is a family. And it's kind of based on a true story. And this movie kind of does the same thing. It really calls you out for wanting to see something that's not good. And everyone went excited that they got to indulge and be a little bad and see the Joker rebel against society, and like, oh, is he going to kill the judge or something? And then that's just not what you get. It's just not what you get. And I really do think that a lot of people just felt kind of dumb. I think that's kind of what it is. It's like, nobody likes being made to feel stupid, and nothing makes you feel stupid like being wrong. And the movie just that's kind of the point of it. It's like, we were all incorrect. You're not supposed to look up to the Joker. You're not supposed to like him. You're not supposed to like Patrick Bateman. You're not supposed to like Rick Sanchez. You're not supposed to like Tyler. Like, they're all bad people. Like, they're entertaining, but you don't like them. You shouldn't want to like them. You wouldn't want those people in your life. They're gonna hurt you or someone around you. I mean, it's like, that's obviously what the point is supposed to be. And it's like, just that complete message. And I don't know, people just had to like rebel against it. It was really weird. It was really disappointing. Yeah, I don't know. Just weird. Weird to see discourse around art being based on trying to make a computer happy. It's depressing. It's really depressing. It's really sad. And I'm going to really stride towards never doing that. I always want... If I say something is the worst thing I've seen, it's going to be awful. If something is amazing, it's going to be genuinely great. I'm never going to take these like very extreme stances on media to try to make the algorithm happy and get a click and get, engagement going on the video. Because this just looks like a really bad future for like criticism and critique and evaluation and video essays. And it's disappointing too, because it's like, so many creators that I like now, I kind of just don't trust their content. Like, it's like, I don't feel like I can trust what they're saying, because they're just trying to get that one view off of me, right? And it's like, I want to hear what you think, because I think you're like funny, or I think you have like good interpretation, or I think like we have similar taste. So if you like it, I'll like it. If you don't like it, I won't like it. But now all these people did these reviews, and I'm like, what the hell are you all talking about? It was a pretty good movie. And it's just weird. It's disappointing. Yeah, it's dystopian for sure. I mean, it's so sad. It feels almost like we have AI writing film reviews. Like, that's honestly what it feels like. It just feels like ChatGPT is going to write everyone's film review now, and they're all going to say the same thing, and then we're all going to try to just think the same thing, and no one's going to just, like, engage and have, like, an honest conversation around art and, like, what it means. And, like, God, you even see it just with, like, people responding online. Like, now you have, like, more people coming out who don't have these major voices and aren't incentivized to, like, lie and be extreme about, like, their takes on it. And now that they're coming out and being like, no, I think it was actually pretty good. Everyone goes, oh my God, you're so smug. You think you're so smart for liking it. And it's like, why does like every conversation have to be so like polarized? Like, why does every conversation have to have just such an air of like a fight about it? Like, it's amazing. I've seen people just come out and be like, wow, I don't understand what you guys are talking about. I thought that movie was incredible. And everyone's like, wow, you think you are so much smarter than everyone. And it's just weird. I don't like it. I don't like that the conversation around art is going to be just so divided. And it's like, it's fine if you don't agree, but like, disagree for like valid reasons, I mean, it's like, if you were to say that you didn't like the Joker or the new Joker or whatever, Joker 2, if you were to say you didn't like the new Joker movie, I wouldn't say that you think you're smarter than me because you didn't like it. Like, right? Like, that criticism wouldn't make sense. I would want to hear why you don't like it. And if you really hated the music, if you really just think that it was, like, awful, and I don't know, if you thought the acting was bad, like, if you had, like, a criticism like that, like, okay, fine. But to have criticisms like, he's never in character as the Joker, which isn't true, or he's barely in the movie, that's really not true. Like, it's not true is the issue with it. It's not that you're, like, dumb for thinking that. You're wrong for saying that is the problem. Like, it's weird. It's weird, and I hate it. And it was just like, this is something I've been, like, suspicious of for a while. But I mean, I walked out of the theater with my friends. We always do the same thing. We go see a movie, and then we go to a bar. We have some drinks, and we talk about, like, what we liked, what we didn't like. I'm typically the bigger critic, too. I typically am the one who's like, no, I really didn't like this. I really didn't like that. I didn't like this. Like, you know. This was the one where I was, like, the biggest fan of it, of the three of us. And all I could just talk about and think about was just how weird the online conversations were leading up to this. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop talking about it. Like, my wife has just heard me rambling about this so much where I'm just like, I just don't understand how so many people could say the same thing and it's so incorrect. And the only answer is that everyone lied about seeing the movie. Or at least a lot of them did. A couple people saw it, they got their early reviews out, and then everyone else just grabbed onto that and just pumped out the content, right? Because it's all about just making content. That's all everyone's trying to do. So everyone puts out these things, but it's like, yeah, I get that, like, your livelihood is kind of based on that, but so are other people's. Like, other people that work in the film industry, the likelihood of them getting onto, like, another project, the likelihood of them, you know, getting an idea greenlit, like, that's all diminished now. Like, you did real world damage to people, to, like, you know, I don't feel bad for the company, but, like, you know, people involved in this for their employment. Like, projects now are going to get shelved or just outright rejected because they're trying to be too different. They're trying to be too creative. They're trying to be too artsy. We should be, like, rewarding movies that take a chance. Like, if you take a chance, like, good. Like, I'll go see it. If it's something that's different, I'll go see it. I'll try it out, you know? It's like seeing Strange Darlings, or a movie that, like, I didn't think was that good, but it really took a shot, was Cuckoo. That movie was not great. It didn't end amazing, but it tried to do something really different. And it's like, yeah, we should reward that. People should go see it. People should talk about it. And, you know, whoever wrote that, whoever directed it, should be given another chance. And, like, I feel that way with this movie. It's like, we've been complaining for years. Like, so much of the discourse around, you know, movies and shows is we keep getting the same crap with bad writing, bad acting. It's always the same thing. You know, I mean, look at all, like, the critics, like, you know, Critical Drinker and all of them, how they just only talk about, like, Disney, Star Wars being bad, and, you know, She-Hulk is a bad show and all those things. It's like, you know, valid points. The writing in those things is bad. But it's like, fine, you have something here that's trying to give you something new, and it's, like, really, really well made. And then you just, like, you don't even take the time to, like, actually see it or, like, form, like, a unique opinion or, like, just digest it. Like, I saw this on Friday. I'm recording this on Monday because I'm just sitting and thinking about it for a few days before I just pump out my opinion, before I just go, like, it was great, it was bad. It's like, just, I hate, like, how it's like the Denzel Washington thing where he talked about that with, like, media outlets now because of, like, the internet. It's not about being right, it's about being first. And people see someone coming first, and it's like they go into this panic, and they're like, I have to get my video out next. I'll just say what they said. All the critics are saying the same thing. It's probably right. I won't face any backlash. And, like, they won't. Like, right? Like, they won't face any real backlash from this. You know, they'll have someone like me and an unknown YouTuber make a video where I talk about them, but I never name them, and that does nothing to them. Like, you know, it's just weird. I don't know. it's just, it leaves me such like a gross feeling, you know. It's just such like a shitty future that we have where we wanted something different, we got something different, we got something good, and you know, just because you want engagement, everyone says the same thing. And like the internet's such an echo chamber. Like you just, it's just a series of echo chambers, and unfortunately some of them like feed into each other, and it's like we're just seeing that. We're like this narrative that's just not correct. It's just bouncing around back and forth. I don't want there to be a third movie. I hope there's not. Like, or if they do a third one, like, I mean, I don't know. I hope there's not a third one like this. It wouldn't be good. I doubt it would get greenlit. At this point, it's not gonna get approved to be made. I doubt the new Joker movie's gonna make its money back, which is sad. It was like dead on arrival opening night because of all of this. Like, it just still really bothers me that people were putting up videos the day before opening night reviewing it, because it's just like, did you see it? Like, did you really see it? I don't know. Anyway, if I was to give it a review, 3.5 out of 5.